Rowena Dooley asking Sol citizens to report for duty. Asking Sol citizens to report for duty.
Greetings. Welcome to Soul Voices, and I have no camera today. Let me see what's going on, gang. This has been a day of technical craziness. Let's see if it comes on now. Hopefully you'll see me. There we are. Great. How's everybody doing? I'm Griffin Gaming RPG. Welcome back. I am happy to be back this week. We missed off last week, and as you guys can tell, I have a little bit of going on with my voice here. I'm still fighting off a little bit of the COVID, but I'm going to try to get through this show today. I'm going to ask that you guys would help me. I'm going to try and minimize talking as much as possible, let you guys talk, because that's what this show is about, hearing from you, the Star Citizen community. Got some really cool subjects to talk about. We're going to be in Spectrum exclusively today. Normally we try to hit Spectrum and Reddit. But we're going to pick most of our topics from Spectrum, and then we're going to look at a video that actually came from last week's Star Citizen Live with Disco Lando. I hope you guys will be able to stick around for that. If you haven't seen it, I think you'll enjoy it, and I think we'll have some good discussion around it. But today's title for this show this week is Disco Discusses, and that's what we're going to be highlighting a little bit later. So, without further ado, we're going to go ahead and jump into our very first question. Thank you guys for joining me today. Who do we have here? Fast Card pops in space. New Soul, see you guys are here. Thank you guys for hanging out with us today. Again, on a Saturday afternoon. So let's jump over. Hopefully I've got this set up correctly. There we go. To our very first Spectrum question, and we are going to put this in Spectrum for you guys. Some of the posts today are a little bit on the lengthy side. I'm just going to give you guys a heads up on that, so if you want to follow along, as always, feel free to do so. Here's the very first one, and this one is entitled, what is the second seat for the Scorpius Antares for? By Complex Ghost 2. Some of you know CIG announced a new ship, a variant actually, on the RSI Scorpius called the Antares. And this person asks, or basically says, there is most definitely not a turret on the Scorpius Antares. So is the second seat. So is the second seat. So is it just for support? The question is weird. Is there a remote turret on the bottom of the ship? We do know that the Antares is designed to be a ship that delivers, and maybe somebody can help me with this because I haven't looked up all the details on this ship. There's been discussion about EMP, quantum jamming, or quantum, what's it called? Suppression or whatever, so that you can't jump. Maybe somebody in chat can tell me what this ship is specifically supposed to do, because I have been sick this week. I didn't get to do the homework on this. Usually I get to do my homework, but on this particular ship, I didn't. So if you could drop it in chat, let me know. Boy, I don't know why my voice is going now. It is entanglement. Or are you putting a question mark, a fast card? I don't know. It's 2 of the 3 or 3 of the 3 or 1 of the 3, and I need to know which one that this particular ship is. Those of you who are over in YouTube, appreciate you guys being here as well today. Let me make sure that I've got that going. I do. Good. You're not sure either. Okay. All right. Well, maybe somebody from the community can answer that question. The poets, I'm hoping that the co-pilot controls the EMP, quantum, and all that. This would be a good balance. Yeah, I'm assuming, CIG has always said that there are supposed to be roles in different positions. It's not just a matter of having I know most of our ships, a second seat has always been kind of the default for like a gunner, turret, something along those lines. And then we've gotten just recently being able to control missiles. But there also wants to be power management. To poets, like you said, being able to handle any type of EMP, things of that nature would be great also, whether they're assignable from the pilot or whether it's just a dedicated spot. But I would think that second seat is more than just there to fly people around. So it says the latest data mine. Thank you, Sir Togi. The latest data mine says it's just a jammer and EMP. Okay, jammer. So it's not entanglement or snare, quantum snare. Okay, so that's still good. If that's what it does, then that's good. Pull you out of quantum and then be able to hit your components and disable your ship. That sounds like good stuff. I got a couple of people already in line that want to talk about this. Let me bring them in. First of all, we got Pops in space. Pops, you there? No Pops. Pops,
Can you hear me, Griff?
I can hear you now. Yes, sir.
Oh, you can? Okay.
I'm sorry. Yep. Can you hear me now? Is that better?
Yeah, I had to turn. I'm hoping I'm not getting feedback because I turned you back on Twitch.
You should be able to hear me now fine too. So okay.
Let me try. Okay, go ahead. Can you
hear me now?
Yep, there we go. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts about the Antares?
It sounds like, well, I've heard a couple of rumors about it being OP'd, and that, yeah, if it can pull you out of quantum and disable you, yeah, that is pretty strong. Plus with its weaponry and its missiles, just wondering if they're going to take away any of the amount of missiles that they have. Even if they take away it doesn't have a top torrent.
Yeah, you lose the turret.
So, yeah, that's gone. So, but even with the 4 guns and the missiles, if you're disabled, that's pretty strong. What
do you think? I mean, what do you think? Do you think that this ship is coming into play in light of? I guess the question becomes why, right? I'm not disagreement. I'm just asking. We've already got the RSI Mantis, which is able to quantum snare, right, and suppress. It can pull you out of quantum, and it can hold you. You've got the Avenger. I can't think of what the Avenger is called. Somebody help me out with the Avenger. The one that has the EMP blast on it. Well, that's got an EMP on it. Then you've got the Warlock. Thank you, Sir Togi. The Warlock. Then you've got the Sentinel from the Aegis series of ships, right? Which is electronic warfare. And then you have the Hawk, which, if I'm not mistaken, has an EMP on it as well, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And then there's one I'm forgetting. What's the one I'm forgetting, gang?
The
Cutlass Blue. The Cutlass Blue.
The police car. Yeah.
Which I think does have quantum snare. I don't know if it's EMP and quantum, not quantum snare, but the one that keeps you, since you can't jump out of quantum. I've forgotten. These are so many of these ships now. I've actually forgotten. I used to know all this stuff. This Antares. I mean, is this something that's popping up now because of this idea of traveling into another system with Pyro, you think?
Absolutely. I think that's the reason. It's the timing. They're not doing anything for nothing at all, because they absolutely said that the ships are going to be coming in with gameplay. But this has to do with the gameplay, with popping in between Stanton and Pyro.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
People used to that.
Excuse me. Thank you, Sir Togi. He says the Cutlass Blue just has a jammer that keeps you from being able to jump. Okay. Thank you, Sir Togi.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. All right, Pops.
But the co-pilot to the question, what will a co-pilot do? I believe, will they have to get a lot of that gameplay online? Because right now, just to be sitting there, just waiting to snare people and do that is really not. But it could have radar. I mean, in the future, he could be in charge of radar. That second seat could, have to do with some type of scanning capabilities and things like that. I don't think we have all of that yet. Yeah. So I think that part we have to wait on.
Yeah, I mean, that's that secondary role could definitely fill in more. I mean, here's the deal, right? The Scorpius is a fighter. It's a heavy fighter. The pilot technically will have his hands full. Not to be funny. Not that some people aren't capable of doing it all, but being able to focus on the combat aspect while you have somebody else who's worrying about the entanglement or the being able to hit the EMPs, it does take a lot of pressure. Now, some people like that one person I can do everything role. And we'll have to see whether or not CIG makes it dedicated. In other words, will I have to have someone in that second seat in order to utilize those features? Because if you remember when the Scorpius first came out, a lot of people want to know right off the bat, can I slave the turret? Right? That was the first thing people want to know, is if I could run it as a one-man ship. And I'm curious to see what CIG is going to say even about this ship. Will it be that, you definitely need that second person to maximize this ship, or you can still do it as a single person and you can do everything? So we'll have to see.
Good question. Good question. Yeah, because the other part with just locking in the guns, it's just forward facing the guns.
Exactly.
This
is there a compromise,
right? Would have a lot to do now that you really think about it.
Okay. Thank you, Pops.
All right.
Alrighty. Let's get Fist in. Fist to Face is here today. Fist, how are you?
Hey, how are you?
Good. What are your thoughts?
Now that that's for this particular vehicle to have that seat become a support, I think maybe I'm looking at it as this. Maybe we're starting to look at multi-crewing becoming more of a thing in the game. Because this is probably, if this comes on, I don't know when the ship will be introduced into the game.
318. 318. They say it's coming out in 318. Yes, sir.
318. So that means that this person, if the ship is functioning the way that we're claiming that it's functioning, then this is the first, I would have to say, the first ship that I would have to say that actually has capabilities for the co-pilot, in a ship, other than bringing up shields or
power management or something like that.
Power management. They actually have a purpose. So this might be, like you say, that tier 0 or tier 1 of multi-crewing, kind of being implemented into the game.
Especially for fighters, right? Because we don't really have any fighters where that's dependent upon. I mean, you've got the Super Hornet, but if they're saying that there's a dedicated role in that ship, that does add a new element when it comes to the combat fighters. Absolutely.
Yeah, and that's what that's what I see it as. I
mean, beyond being a gunner, right? I mean, being a gunner, yeah.
Which is cool, because that's the way the game initially is going to be. So for them to do it this way, if this is the way it's going to be done, to kind of put it in a ship that's not a large ship right off the bat, just to kind of get folks' mind accustomed to it. Like, hey, this is coming in. It's just trickling in, so I mean, I think that's really, really cool, because from like I said, from a balanced play sorry, from a balancing play style, this does help out with communication because, like you said, if it's just a one-man ship and they can basically do everything from that one man, and what's the purpose of it?
Yeah.
Then what's the purpose of multi-crewing?
Yeah. Yeah. Very true. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, Fist. I got Sir
Thank you.
Togi waiting in line. I'm gonna get him in
All
here.
right.
He's been sharing information with us today. Let me get him. Put Fist up there. Excuse me. And we've got Sir Togi with us. Sir, how are you?
Oh, I'm great. How about yourself?
Good. Thanks for dropping in, man.
So I'm pretty sure the reason why it has 2 seats is the whole thing with operator modes.
Didn't think about that.
Yeah, I mean, so like missile operator mode locks out your weapons. They're gonna make EMPs. They're gonna make the quantum jammers and stuff their own operator modes. And so having that second seat allows you to operate those systems without locking out your weapons.
Good point. I didn't even think about that. And that is coming up. Let me ask you this. Do you think, again, we kind of named all these different ships that have these different variations of either EMP or quantum snaring or quantum dampening, right? Do you think that maybe this is also a move toward this idea that we've been hearing about once trade lanes and stuff starts popping up? Do you think that they'll start I'm not saying make this career, but yeah, I am saying this. You think they're going to start expanding on these ships now? That they're going to actually start having a purpose more in the universe, even though we're still in Stanton?
Yeah, probably. I mean, with physicalized cargo and the ability to actually pirate stuff, I think they're going to lean into it. I think this is pretty low-hanging fruit for them at this point. It's a good call. I'm not exactly sure if I'm a fan of the ship in general as of right now. It kind of seems like it's a worse Cutlass Blue, but
yeah,
that's my opinion.
Well, no, your opinion's, I love your opinion because I didn't realize that since Soft Death came in, there have been people who've been actually doing the whole EMP thing. I didn't know that folks were really tapping into that. I figured eventually, but I heard a lot of people are actually doing it, or whether it's for practice or whatever, but they're doing it with piracy right now. And I just thought it was interesting that, RSI's already got the Mantis. Now they've put another ship out, a little different than the Mantis, of course, but, they've put out another one of these ships that I definitely wasn't expecting the freaking Scorpius. That I definitely wasn't expecting.
No, I wasn't, especially not with what it does. Maybe one or the other, but not both.
Yeah, a variant that does something distinctly different. Yeah. Okay.
I mean, with it losing the turret, though, I'm just kind of,
Yeah. We'll have to see where they go with it. Because again, I'm curious again. I think Fish just mentioned about them seeming to put more emphasis on the multi-crew aspect of it. So I really am curious to see whether or not it's dedicated, that backseat is dedicated. I love your thing about the about the modes though, because I honestly didn't even think about that. And it makes perfect sense about the modes coming in now. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Sir Togi. Right. And thanks again for the info earlier. You're helping me out with my bad memory today. Thanks a lot, buddy.
Yeah, I'll keep it coming.
Thank you, man. All right. Love this community. Great folks. Okay. Well, that opens us up with our first one, which is great. Let's go ahead and go into our second one. And you kind of notice that there's a theme to all these guys because these are all kind of built around development. Where is CIG going with stuff today? And that's kind of the theme of today's show, which is why I kind of titled the whole Disco Discusses thing. Let's take a look at this second one here. And again, as always, love to hear your thoughts on this particular one. Let me get the link in here for you guys. I don't know if Fastcart beat me to it or not. No, he hasn't beaten me to it yet. So I'm going to put this in for you guys. He beat me to it. Okay, thanks, Fastcart. Okay. This is a long read. Please forgive me if my voice goes down. I'm going to try not to stress my voice so that I can read through this. The title of this is CIG does not deliver enough PU patch content and features on a regular basis for a game that has been in development for 10 years. 10 years plus. Okay. So, thank you. Kissom22, thank you for that follow. We appreciate that. Thank you so much. I'm going to try to read this. The roadmap, this is how it opens up. The roadmap is a distraction. Since waiting a year For 3.0 back in the dark days, not much has improved in terms of CIG's ability to deliver tech, new gameplay loops, and general content in a timely manner and according to their own projections. The next twist introduced after the 3.0 series to try and stabilize development and patch releases was staggered development, where teams would alternate on 6-month cycles so that each patch would have a decent amount of well fleshed out features. Pardon me. This strategy didn't work, and gameplay loops have continually slipped further and further back, with tech driving the bulk of the delays. Recently, patches have been combined, having more and more content cut and slipping further and further back. Communications with aspirational goals are released by CIG and quickly fall by the wayside as dates slip even from these recent projections. Where will this end? We had a running joke a while back about the 3.18 patch series just continuing on into infinity. 3.18, 1.8.1, 0.2, etc. But it seems like that has become the truth. What needs to be done to shore this up and correct the problems? Do there need to be production changes? Do more resources need to be shifted away from Squadron 42? If there were any other company, this would be unacceptable. If this were any other company, this would be unacceptable. It seems like the culture of game development is hard. Everything is subject to change. The only constant in game development is change, etc., along with the lack of discrete goals and deadlines has made mediocrity acceptable here. Most of the entire rest of the games industry manages to meet their deadlines or release estimates within 10 years. Side note, the turbulent team responsible for the Lorville remake managed to get their deliverable out ahead of estimated release dates of 4.0 to whatever the 3.18 patch is. What are they doing that the rest of the company isn't? There has to be a better answer to these ongoing problems from both the community and CIG than to just accept it. If Squadron 42 is dragging the PU development down, there needs to be better balance. If the current production methods aren't efficient, there needs to be changes made to make them more efficient. Do we need longer or shorter patch cycles? There needs to be some introspection and improvements because despite the current culture, missing deadlines and your own goals is not acceptable and emblematic of problems. This thread is for discussing the above topic until certain people come in and start fights and derail the thread on purpose so as to get locked into that they do in every similar thread, so enjoy. If you're not one of those people I mentioned, I implore you to do your utmost not to respond to the people who will come in and try to bait you into fighting and be civil so this thread can stay up for as long as possible. Thank you. Okay, that came from, I don't know, Kefeinzel? I don't know. I can't pronounce his name. I'm so sorry. But yeah, we'd love to hear you guys' thoughts about this. CIG does not deliver enough patch content and features on a regular basis for a game that's been in development for 10 plus years. Okay, so don't forget, you guys can come in and join in the conversation. We always love to hear, voices from the community. So please feel free to join us at this link because we would love to hear from you. Alrighty, we've got Pops in space back in line. Let's bring Pops in. Pops, you there?
Yeah, I am.
Okay. What do you think about the post? Any thoughts?
I think I'm not going to be negative on the person. I'm not really sure the person's level of being involved in the game.
They said they've been around since 3.0, which means they've been here since 2015, 16 at least.
Okay. Well, yeah, then he kind of needs a little slap on the wrist here, a little bit. He needs to learn a little bit more to really basically, he should understand the development of the game, that the 10-year thing is, it's an easy copy pasting in a post to get the community riled up. And as we, those of us that have been in business know, when you start a business from nothing, it's just you and maybe 2 or 3 other people. It's not really there at all. It's ideas, and it takes from there. I don't want to go into that big whole point. Yeah, he needs to kind of catch up a little bit and kind of get off to that copy and paste everything to get the posts riled up. As far as looking at and saying, I do understand this about it, is that the game, the anticipation of the game, the hype of the game, yeah, it makes you want it, and it makes you want it now. That's true, but we have to curb our enthusiasm and have a bit of responsibility. That's just the way I kind of look at it.
Well, let me ask you a question. How do people manage this idea of? I mean, it's been 10 years. It's been 10 years since it was announced.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, people jokingly say it, but it's also the truth. Some people have graduated, gotten married, and had kids.
Mm-hmm.
For a game.
Yeah.
For a game.
Yeah. Kids have been born.
CIG has put out schedules that don't always meet their deadlines, right? So how do you process this? I mean, is it? I guess the point of this person's question is, they see this as not being normal. They see that maybe we've become so used to it now that we're not demanding that things change. That this isn't the way the company should run. In fact, they even make a comment: if any other company ran this way, it wouldn't happen. Do you think those are valid arguments, or do you think that this person?
I don't.
Okay.
No, I don't.
Okay.
I don't think it's a valid argument. I think it's a copy and paste thing. But I'm not blaming the person for that, because it is there so much, and a part of the problem is, it's a good part of the problem. The game is the potential of the game, where they're going. To say the roadmap's so good, where they want to go is a good thing. It's going to change and flip the industry. So I understand that we all want it. But to say, if this was another game, they're not doing this, they haven't had patches. If we remember back in the early 3.0s, we used to get a small amount of things in the package, and we used to get things that were missing from the updates and things like that. Now we're not only getting that, we're getting plus. We're getting things that are not even on the roadmap.
Okay.
We're getting surprises. So to kind of throw that in there is not, it's not fair. But I do understand the frustration.
Okay.
I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, Pops. Thank you much for your thoughts. We appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right, let's bring Fist to Face in. Once again, don't forget you guys can join us in the conversation. Fist, you there?
Hey, what's happening? All right.
What are your thoughts?
So my thoughts on this, I'm going to take a little bit of approach to saying this. I know we said this before, like when people say these things about the game and, oh man, there's no content. And I have to take approach and say this, okay, and here's my first thing to say, like you were saying, the game has a lot of content. Go out there and make it. Like you would say, it's a sandbox, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can get your friends, you can go out there, y'all can go out there and make content in the game, right? Mm-hmm. Now, I understand 317 doesn't have all of the, the stuff that 318 does, but I have seen some things that 318, some of the Orson missions that are coming up, obviously, you got salvaging gameplay, you have other things like that. Mm-hmm. That are coming into the game. That's content. And I think as I'm listening to this person talk about, the development, right? It's been 10 years. I would ask this person genuinely, do me a favor. Okay. As you know, me and Pops are doing a project. And as I started to learn about Unreal Engine 5, I had to go for help. So I went into the Unreal Engine 5 Discord and, to seek out some help. And I sat in there and I listened to these guys. And these guys are in there trying to build their game. And these are single people, may have some other friends helping them, this, that, and the other. These are single people trying to build a game in this engine, right? And I implore people to go, if you really want to learn about it, just hear folks that are actually doing it. You know what I'm saying? Go in and just listen and understand how long it's taking them for them to build. And I'm not, taking, that diminishing the game, but just something that's a platformer, like a 2D side scroller, or you know what I mean? Something not as depth as fidelity as this. It is a lot of work. It is a lot of work because there's certain things that I have to do with an Unreal Engine or on the cinematic side that goes into game development. And I'm like, whoa, okay, wait, I didn't know I had to do all of this.
Okay, but that's just you. Right. That's just you as a single person. CIG has, well, and let me go from this person's time frame from 3.0 till now. 400 to 700 employees.
Okay.
It's 400 to 700 employees, right? Doing all types of stuff. Everybody's not an artist. Everybody's not a this, that. But this person says that there's a culture that we've adopted, the game development. Like you're saying it right now. Game development is hard. Things are subject to change. The only, Jared's statement, the only constant in development is change, So, have those become just catchphrases that we're just embracing and we're kind of excusing that CIG is taking 10 years because that's what they've been preaching to us? And, if you repeat it enough, people start to believe it,
Yeah, and I get that. But the thing about it is one thing, like you said, if somebody's saying something and it becomes a catchphrase to become an excuse, then, all right, I can understand that from the outside looking in. But that's why, again, I go back to saying, go into that Discord and just sit there and listen. Or, matter of fact, Unreal Engine is free. Pick it up. Go in there. Try to make a ball move from one side to the other side.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Try to figure it out.
Yeah. I get it. I get it, Fist. I get it. But see, you're coming from the position of learning. But the people you're bringing on staff already know how to make a ball move. These are supposed to be qualified. And I get it.
But here's the thing,
people that know how to do development, and it's still taking 10 years. Do we forget?
But see, but then this kind of goes back to what he was saying. CIG, like the first part of CIG does not deliver enough to the PU patch content features on a regular basis. But you got to understand something, though, too. They're trying to build 2 games here.
And he asked,
they're building 2 games.
And he asked, well, does that mean that they need to change their priority? If Squadron 42 is taking so much resources, should they shift their priorities then? So then, but then again, it goes back to that thing that I said a while back, because it becomes a catch-22 for CIG, because then now, if they listen to this person and say, okay, well, listen, let's take all of these resources and put it over here into the PU off of Squadron 42 too. Oh, well, where's Squadron 42? Where's Squadron 42? And then now that becomes exactly. It's like, come on now. Okay. I appreciate you letting me play devil's advocate. I appreciate it, but I understand what you're saying. Okay, all right. Thank you, Fist. We got BBG, Big Black Gaming here. Why don't we bring him in and see what he's got some thoughts on? BBG, you there? I think he's there. Hopefully he's there. Or maybe he stepped away. We'll see if he pops back in. Yeah. Oh, there he is.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
How's it going?
Pretty good. How are you?
I'm good, man. I just wanted to extend, if I could, Pops and Fist's ideas on this. I mean, I think on the one hand, it's very clear from those of us who have been around for a while, when you get to see individuals who are what I call on the continuum of frustration, right? Sometimes different people with different levels of patience get to different points of frustration at different places in the process, right? And the game has drawn such a wide variety of individuals to itself because of the compelling nature of what it's trying to do, that you get a lot of different people who are focused on this idea of, should CIG be doing more? But all of them are at a different place on that. So at different times, different people pop up and go, from my perspective, now I've had enough. Right. And when you watch that with a 50,000 foot lens, you just see that pop up a lot, right? For different people at different times. This is really about an individual's frustration point, right? The other point that has been made that I think is important is, well, let's take the worst case scenario. Well, not the worst case scenario, but one of the poorer scenarios. Let's assume that CIG could put out a game like Star Citizen, and let's not forget Squadron 42, right? We always seem to forget that that's being worked on alongside this, and in fact has priority. But let's assume that game, they could work a lot harder and a lot faster on it.
Okay.
With this being the largest crowd-funded gaming project that isn't tied to like Bitcoin or cryptocurrency, the largest crowd-funded gaming project in the history of history. If it's so easy to do, if they could knock it out in 3 years, why hasn't some other company done that?
True.
Right?
Yeah.
You'd think that people like money, right? Corporations like money.
Yeah.
Right? Corporations are, when you think of a corporation, think of a shark. A shark don't do nothing but shark.
Yeah.
And corporations don't do nothing but corporatize, commodify, commercialize, right? You'd think if you could just jump in and spend 3 years really focused in and get some developers to really just crunch, and you can knock it out at this high level of quality or even come close. You think 1 or 2 or 3 corporations would have done that already.
Yeah, now. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because they like money, but nobody's done that. Why? Because this is hard.
Yeah.
Right? Because this is difficult.
Yeah.
Right? Because this is something that is reaching for something that really has not been done before.
Okay.
And as a result, that's not a project that anybody can just take on. And in fact, those of us who have been around for a while know that CIG itself was not configured the way it will ultimately be configured to take it on.
Okay.
That in and of itself has been a process of becoming the organization that it wants to become in order to do these things and do them well, and do them at the cutting edge and leading edge that they're trying to do. So I think everybody needs to think that through, right? Because there's no competitors to this project.
True that.
Right? Because it's hard.
Yeah.
That's all I want to say.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And I hope you'll be able to stick around just a little bit, BG, for the next question, because I'm going to open up with something that you kind of have led into. I got Shakes waiting in the queue, so I'm going to get him. And if you want to come back and comment after I do this next one, please feel free, because you kind of opened the door for something that I want to do. So thank you for that, man. Appreciate you, okay? All righty. All righty. Let's bring in Shakes. Shakes, you there?
I am.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Any thoughts you got regarding what we've been talking about?
I think on the last few topics that have been brought up are actually pretty good, right? Me and GoMap go back and forth on this because it's a lot of people really look at this and they think it's just a game. And it's really not just a game. The infrastructure that's behind this is huge. And everything, all of the game infrastructure behind it, right? The multiplayer aspect of it, they're all having to, build that out from nowhere. And nobody's done it at this level.
Yeah.
Nobody. I mean, WoW there's a reason why like World of Warcraft or other MMOs, all you see are little numbers, right? But this is dynamic. I mean, you can throw a hot dog at somebody.
True.
Right? And I mean, I get grumpy too. I get it. I totally get, especially when they come back to you with, oh, hey, new special ship, right? Better than the last ship. I mean, I'm sure GoMab's mentioned it, right? I'm Legatus. I've been around since 2013.
Yep.
Ironically, I actually had to go look just to make sure how long it's been. But
I know.
Yeah, I mean, my favorite thing in the game is finding stuff they didn't even want me to do in the first place.
Yeah.
So
let me ask you a question.
I mean, I get it's trickling.
Shakes, let me ask you this. You've been around for a while, so I will ask you this. I noticed something that this person, not just this person, but other people emphasize a lot about, and I hear people say this, and I've been around a long time. I've been around since 2013 as well. I hear a lot of people, and he mentions it in this particular patch, about game features and game loops not being delivered. And whenever I've looked, the things that CIG's emphasis have been on, you kind of touched on this a little bit, was the infrastructure in building up the tools and things so that there can be game loops and game features. There are very few game loops and features I ever remember CIG quote unquote promising and not being delivered. I'm talking about in the sense of a calendar. You know, I've heard ships come up, things of that nature. You know, things get moved on the chart. But is this because people, I think someone said it earlier, of understanding about a sandbox? We haven't had a lot of sandbox games where it really became totally dependent upon the players to create their own stuff. You know, we've gotten kind of used to the developer provides what we do. Am I making sense? Is that where some of the angst comes from, that, you know, people feel like they've done all the little missions that are there and there's quote unquote nothing else for me to do in the game?
I think somewhat. Yeah, I mean, I think the racing thing was huge. You know, because that was all the players that was doing that. And so to have CIG step in and actually solidify that and legitimize that was great. But a lot of it is, I mean, and a lot of people love that. I make GoMab crazy because I'm the lone wolf gamer, right? I love lurking around, and, you know, I'll meet up with a couple people, but getting on with a big group, it's just not my thing.
Yeah.
Right. But I still find stuff to do.
Still find stuff to do. Yeah.
My favorite are the Twitch missions. I'm always a bad guy. I'm like the king of Clutcher. I am always in that place.
The warden knows you when you come in. How they welcome you back with open arms.
And that mission, being able to actually get a ship to get out of there.
Oh yeah,
because you can't navigate in a rover, right? So I don't know how to get to the aid station. And I'd like to see some of that stuff, you know, be sped up. I think there's some real low-hanging fruit that they could jump on to make that stuff better. But then again, you go back to, I would love to see them do more like chats with the developers that talk about the deep technical stuff. I don't think they do that enough. Granted, you're only going to be talking to 10% of the players or less.
Yeah, a lot of them don't like to hear all that. Yeah.
But when I play the game right now, this is all database stuff. Every problem we're having is database related in some way, right? Because if you pick up an item from a backpack and you drop it on the floor, you know, it makes a database change and it lags out, or it gets missed or dropped, or the database becomes corrupted or whatever. And and we've gone rounds about that, talking about that, but we don't get to hear about it a lot. So when they make a promise about A, B, or C, it's real easy for them to make that promise thinking they know what they're talking about. But then when they bust out the hammer and they get elbow deep into it, they realize, there's just no way. Or we could make this thing and waste a year and then have to remake it in 18 months.
So, you've also, just like BBG, you segued me into my next question. So thank you for saying that, because this next question is going to be dealing with, you know, what the vision is and what we think we can do, and how there are these hurdles and stumbling blocks to finally get where we want to be, right? That things do change, but there is a journey, right? Just because we say this is what's going to happen, it doesn't mean, like you said, that that's exactly what's going to happen in the process of development. So we're going to hit on that. So feel free to come back if you want to after we watch this little video, okay?
Absolutely.
And thanks, Shakes.
Good talking to you.
You too, man. Thank you. It's GoMab's buddy. GoMab drops his name on the show all the time. Okay, we're going to go into this next one. Thank you, guys, because that was great commentary. I'm going to bring up this first question, or this post, and then I'm going to show you guys a little video. I think that's going to go along with this, if I'm remembering correctly. Hopefully, and this has come up already from ISC from yesterday. Did they just start server meshing? You know, the ISC was this whole thing about meshing together, and it showed, for those of you who haven't seen it, I won't go into great detail, But what it did show was the various teams that in CIG's employment that have been working on the idea of server meshing got a chance to all come together in Manchester at the new headquarters and meet up physically for the first time. Now, there have been people who've been working on this since 2017 or whatever year they started back in the day with iCache and stuff, but over the last few years, particularly with COVID, many of them never got to physically be around each other. So you've got people in Austin, LA, Germany, UK. And so evidently CIG thought, as you guys know, the month of January is always the month after they take their vacations where they do their summits, their different meetings that they do to kind of brainstorm about what the plan will be for that next year. So all the server meshing people got a chance to get together, got to meet. I mean, they've done Zooms and teleconferences, but they got to be around each other. And those of you who've worked in work experiences like that, you know that video conferencing, as convenient as it is and as great as it is, it's not the same as when you're in the same room with people. It's not the same as when somebody's right next door and you can go over to their office at any point and ask them a question or sit at lunch or talk. So this gave them a great opportunity to get to meet, talk with each other, and talk about the future planning for server meshing. So I want to show you a video. I've referenced this video before, but I've never shown it. And this video to me is always like, man, it mirrors what's going on in my head with CIG. And it's George Lucas. And this was part of the documentary that was put together for when they were making the Phantom Menace. And they're in pre-production. And this is George bringing in storyboards with his staff, all his technical people and stuff. And for the first time, they're starting to see what's unfolding. And he basically is saying, you're going to see him have two markers. And he's going to be saying, this is, stuff we're shooting with the camera. This stuff over here is stuff that's all green screen, visual effects. And I want you to look at the faces of his people as he's going through this storyboard. Then we're going to come back and talk about a little bit of what you're seeing. Okay, so check this out.
Well, I would say in the end that this is set.
Yeah, we have one with a piece of wool. Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
two pieces of wool. Maybe.
And then this is you guys.
Mm-hmm.
This is real. This is real. Real. Not so real. Not so real. Not so real. Real. This is gonna be tricky. That's real. That's real. Real. That's real. Dude, this stuff looks great. I was feeling so good about my ability to do this, and I screwed it up. I know this is gonna work. I know it's gonna work because it's impossible. We're pushing the envelope in a few places, but the biggest issue is volume. I mean, just the amount of stuff.
Yes.
And of course, that's the part that creates the world. Jar Jar is a key to all this. If we get Jar Jar working, because he's a funnier character than we've ever had in any movies before.
Well, the thing that's really big here is in the big grass planet battle there, with zillions of creatures. Now we don't have a real good way of doing that right now. So that's where it's real investment.
Yeah, that is the challenge.
Exactly.
That's the set piece.
Yeah.
The whole thing is how are you going to top the pod race? Yeah, because it's pretty intense. I'll be exhausted by the time in the pod race. I'll be ready to go home. But the thing is, we can top the pod race with this incredible Jedi battle that we've always heard about in the last three movies, but never really got to see. And then that with Anakin, kind of duplicating the Luke Skywalker role, but you see the echo of where it all's going to go. And instead of destroying the Death Star, he destroys the ship that controls the robots. Again, it's like poetry, so if they rhyme. Every stanza kind of rhymes with the last one. Hopefully it'll work.
Okay. But the reason why I showed this is because for me, there are several points here that George Lucas makes. One of them, and by the way, I asked you guys to make sure that you paid attention to the faces of the various tech people that were there. Because if you notice, their faces were like, are you serious? Kind of had this look on their faces. And George makes a comment. He says, this is going to work. I know it'll work because it's impossible, which I thought was really interesting to make as a comment to his people. The fact that it's impossible, but I know it's going to work. Also, there was one technician there who's always visual effects who says, yeah, the amount of work here is a lot, but you know, we don't have the technology to even do this, you know. And this isn't the first time. If you guys have followed the history of Star Wars, even from the very first film, the technology really was not in place for them to make the films. They literally had to create it on the fly, on the spot, figure out how to make certain cameras work, how to do all the matting, all types of stuff. And in many ways, I look at Star Citizen as being that same thing. There's certain tools that are there, but as you guys know, they've had to recreate an engine. They've had to come up with new technologies, such as being able to do the thing with flying from with people to planet, flying from into space with no loading screens. Whole lot of stuff that they've had to build out tech-wise. And so server meshing is one of those things. And what I want to do is show you this beautiful graph that was put together. I'm blocking myself out so you guys can see this. I'll put the link in for your fast card if you wouldn't mind dropping that link in. There are two links there, fast card. One is for the post, and then one is the one that goes directly to this particular chart. This has showed the progress since 2017 when we first started talking about what was at the time OCS, Object Container Streaming, and how that has moved from that to iCache, and there's been this evolution of this idea of how do we create servers that will allow us to make this game possible. And it's been progressive, and as you can see from left to right, where the green is, those are the things that they were able to eventually accomplish. Those things are done. When you get in the middle there, where persistent entity streaming, that's where they are now. We're just getting PES into the game. And then, if you guys have already heard, there's these new server meshings that are coming up. First static, and then dynamic, and then ultimately moving toward the last column there, which is in red, the single shard, where we all will be. That's the toughest one to get to, guys. There are a lot of technical hurdles. It's actually theoretical to a certain degree in the way that Star Citizen is. Now, we're not talking about the single shard that's on Eve. It's an entirely different thing, because those of you who play Eve know that even Eve doesn't run in real time. There's a thing we call time dilation that allows people to play globally in the game, but it's not 100% real time. And what Chris and them are trying to do is create something that is in real time. I don't know if it's possible. The physics dynamics of it say it's very difficult to do. But in the meantime, what I'm trying to show you on this chart is that there's been a progression in tech. Now, when we look at that post that we just talked about a few minutes ago, of the person who was talking about, you know, is CIG progressing and is it taking them too long? What they didn't take into effect was the technical hurdles and boundaries that they've done over the past 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years. Oh, they were focused on was gameplay, game features, whether I can do what I want to do in the game. They did not look into account of, has there been progress in other areas that has justified 7, 8 years of development, why we're where we are now. So that's something that I want to put in on that argument, is to say, if you're just basing this on game features and game loops, you're not looking at the whole picture. Before those game loops and game features can become really what Chris Roberts has talked about, the groundwork has got to be in place to support it. If we don't have that groundwork, you're going to have a very empty game, or a game that you're only going to play for 3 months, 6 months, a year, and then you'll be looking on Steam for the next game to play, which is not what they want this game to be. So let me bring in Pops in Space, don't forget, you guys can come in and give me your thoughts on this. I would love to hear what you have to say. Pops?
Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. Griff, the ground, the base. A lot of people forget about the most important thing to, well, I'm not going to say anything, is your foundation.
Mm-hmm.
And I've heard this from, the other game that we've, Lifetime, is Ashes of Creation. And their philosophy from the beginning, which I believe Star Citizen is the same, is you've got to get the ground solid.
Mm-hmm.
Because everything is based on the ground. It makes sense in life. You're building, I don't care how high you can go. If your ground can't support it, your building is done.
Mm-hmm.
So what I've seen here is the point of fact that they have to get all of that done. But one of the things in the video that we commented on Thursday's show, which I meant to bring up, was that one of the gentlemen said that it's hardware limitation that they have to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
Because and like you're saying, the technology may not be there. So right now, they are trying to create back doors and things like that, and to go back to what was George Lucas, and you just said, they started doing something without the technology, and I believe that same thing is to Star Citizen. That they have started a project in lieu of technology catching up. And like I said, going back to that same statement that was done on the show we had on Thursday, that they come out on Thursday, that they said that there's a hardware limitation, and right now they have to deal with it by stringing other things along and stuff like that. So it's a lot. It is a tremendous, yeah.
All right, thank you, Pops. Good thoughts. I do want to emphasize, and Rosenstein, thank you for mentioning this, or Madless, one of you guys mentioned it. This is not CIG's posting here, guys. This is posted on Spectrum, and it's unofficial. It's done by Unobtainium. Did a great job on this. And what he did was go back and pull the resources from what CIG has posted previously and just made a visual calendar of it so that we would have an idea of the timeline of where we are. Rosenstein, I know you said that we have PES. Now, we have the first iteration of PES. It is not by any means done. Guarantee you that, because it still needs to be iterated into this the static meshing and the dynamic meshing. So we've just gotten the first part of it. Ironically, the cool thing about it is that in 3.18, PES is working really, really well. I don't know if it's 100%, but it is persistent. And it's one of the things that we've had least problems with in 3.18. But as was mentioned by Jared, there's still a lot of bug work that needs to be done before things are 100% solidified in the game. Okay, let's bring in Fist. Fist, are you there?
How are you?
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
So I'm this post is very cool, and I like it. I appreciate what Pops just said, my dad just said earlier. And excuse me, apologies, bringing out a good point about hardware limitations. And that's a big problem, not just in obviously what CIG is trying to do, but in other industries as well. And I'm going to take an example. Recently, obviously, as me and you know, and for some that know in the chat, me and my father, we're into music, and we are locked to, certain things when it comes to interfaces and so on and so forth, not to be long-winded about it. Recently, a company by the name of Universal Audio, which we bought into a long time ago, their plugins were hardware specific, where only way you can use their plugins is if you had their proprietary hardware. Recently, they went away from that. They literally about a few days to a week ago, they went away from that. And the reasoning why, from my assumption, and as far as from what I've seen from other folks in the community, in the audio industry, is because the hardware limitations are from their hardware it's becoming antiquated.
Mm-hmm.
So computers today can run all of these plugins and things like that better than their hardware.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why I'm saying it is because the industry is driven, by like George is saying, doing the impossible.
Mm-hmm.
And stuff like that. So it made me think about what was being said about this, that, folks are looking, these companies like CIG is looking at the future of what they want to do. Like you said, they want this game to be a longevity game. Now, right now, their limitation is, unfortunately, their hardware, if that's what I'm from understanding.
Mm-hmm.
That will push the industry to do and say, okay, well, we need to then find a way to be able to support this, this technology. Because now when you look at Star Wars and you look at what George was trying to say in there on that storyboard, he's saying, this is real, that's not real, this is, they're saying, they're looking at, and he says, okay, well, we got to make this scene right here with all of the droids. That's all that's all CGI right there, right? And he couldn't do that back in the day with during the time when correct me if I'm wrong, what was it, 5, 6, and 7, or was it?
Yeah. In fact, and let me say this to you too. The same thing you're mentioning right now is in many ways some of the same limitations that CIG had 8-9 years ago. There's certain technology, cloud technology, for example, was not where it is now, right? Obviously graphic card technology definitely wasn't where it is right now.
Right.
There's this constant evolution of technologies. And at the same time, how do you take advantage of those? You can't just stay with, this is what we started with in 2016 and we're not going to change it. If it means that you can optimize and make everything better, which means that there's this constant evolution of both development and technology and trying to keep up. And at the same time, you're fighting against the clock, right? Because that evolution always happens. The question becomes, well, when do we stop? And you have to find that marriage between when you can feel like you're finally culminating with creating what it is that you envisioned, and don't find yourself just chasing technology too, because technology is always going to evolve, right? It's kind of like the cell phone. You know what I mean? You can go stand in line every year and get a new iPhone, or at a certain point you say, does this do what it needs to do? Is the phone doing the things that I needed to do? Right. And making that decision is a tough place when it comes to a game like Star Citizen. You have to, and I'm sure they do have a place where it will meet Chris's, what his expectation is of the game, right? Right. But for now, he's probably looking at it from, like, I think someone mentioned this earlier. We talked about this in the past. We weren't supposed to be able to land anywhere on a planet. Right. We weren't supposed to. We were supposed to have landing zones, and that was it. Now, if they had stayed to the white, what's it called, the white paper, and says, well, this is what we're going to do right now, we would not be enjoying that. Did that add some time to the process? I'm sure it did. I'm sure it did extend the process. Of course. But what are we reaping from it at the same time, right? Are we reaping benefits of that extra time that it took? We're probably paying a little price too, but we are reaping benefits of it. You know what I mean?
Can I say this though, Griff?
Yeah.
A lot of times, and it kind of goes back to us as consumers from a mind standpoint. And I'm going to kind of get down to the psychology of it from what I've seen, and it's just going to sound a little harsh, but it's from what my assessment is true. From a consumer standpoint, we do have a spoiled mentality. Because a lot of times what happens is, like you just said, take the example of being able to fly down to a planet, right? Once you've done it so many times, it becomes
you don't even think about it anymore, right?
Right. You don't think about it anymore. It's just like the first time, like if I could ask just you or anybody in chat when you were a kid, and maybe this has been something, I don't know, but you ever seen that toy that you wanted so much from on that TV screen? As soon as you get it, you're like, it's not as what I thought it was.
No, you're right. We have gotten spoiled. I can't think of the guy's name. Drew Wager. We came over from Elite, and he used to do something every time he streamed. He would do this one thing. Pardon me. He'd do this one thing. He had a Drake Cuddy. he was happy as a clam with the Drake Cuddy, man. And every time he would go into Quantum, he would walk to the back of the ship and open the back door.
Right.
And look out the back, and his face would just light up, right? Because that idea of being able to get out of your seat, go to the back of your ship, and look out the back and watch the stars fly, for him, it was amazing. For those of us who've been here the last 10 years with all this dust over us, we don't even think about it anymore. It's like, right. No big deal.
And I understand that's our psychology and how the way we do things. It's we don't really think about, what we have in front of us. And I'm not, I'm not going to sit up here and be like, I'm not going to, trust me, believe me, I'm not being, as I'm calling this out, just to say that I'm anywhere near above being like that, because I do it too. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's just sometimes, we don't really take into account about these things, and we kind of have to take a step back and say, all right, let me think about what I do have here. Okay. Because real quick, just one last point. A couple more people in line. Yep, go ahead. Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay, go ahead.
Yeah, no, and because that's a very important point, that like Pop said, impossibility drives things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it does. And it's a funny thing to hear Lucas say that, right? He says, I know it'll work because it's impossible, right?
Exactly.
Which is interesting. Okay. Thank you, Fist. Appreciate you, brother. You. All right. Let's bring in BBG. BBG, you there? I know he's there. He's got to unmute his phone, I think. Oops, I got him in the wrong room. How did I jump him down to the green room? Oh my God. You there, BBG? Oh, maybe he's not there. There he is.
Hey, Griff.
Yeah, buddy.
Thank you for sharing both this chart, which I have not seen before, as well as the clip. The legendary clip, you had referenced that clip several times. You made that point that it was nice to see those faces, because you're right. When you look close, you can see the little micro expressions. They're like, "Wait, what's this dude's what?" And the strength of his quote, I know we're going to get there because it's impossible. Just to me, categorizes the arc of this particular project.
Can I say something else to you, BBG?
Yeah.
This has hit me because of what you just said. What Lucas did, and people may not know this, for those movies, people don't like the first three movies, but let me tell you what did come out of that. He changed the way the industry shot film.
Correct.
Because those were those films that he did all that blue screen, green screen work in, and changed the whole dynamic of the way movies were made. May not have liked the films, but his impact changed the way movies were made.
Correct.
Reload, thank you so much for those 5 subs. We appreciate that, brother.
Oh, absolutely. Yes. That's my second point, which is that part of what I believe CIG is reaching for is to be the author in the gaming community of a set of tools and technologies that ultimately they'll be able to license out. I believe that that's part of this work, and we ought to be thankful for it, because it's that type of additional revenue that CIG may be able to garner that will prevent, over the mid and long term, our experiences in the PU being, for example, subscription driven.
Or boring. Or for the company to fold.
Right.
A whole lot of other things, right?
Right. Or lacking innovation, right? All that stuff. Right. So the more diverse the set of revenue sources that CIG can develop, the better. Finally, the last thing I would say is that the thing I was struck with both the chart, the server meshing chart, and the Lucas piece was a quote from a little film that came out in like April of '81. And it was called Excalibur. And there was a guy named Nicol Williamson in the film who played Merlin. And one of the things he said near the end of the film was, treasure these moments, savor them. He said, because it is the doom of men that they forget. And one of the things that's powerful about this chart is that I've been around this entire time. I've been around before this chart starts. But there's so much going on in open alpha development that you forget the work that's been done, the things that have been achieved, and the steps on the ladder that were necessary, the lower rungs that had to be figured out before we could begin to think about these higher rungs on the ladder. And so I would just enjoin everyone else to process this chart, remember, not forget what it was like before we had object container streaming, right? And that type of thing, to look at all the detail and to enjoy the journey that is this singular project of getting to be this much in the sausage making for open development alpha at this level. So
yeah, good stuff. Thank you, man. Appreciate you sharing that.
Thank you.
All righty. Last one. We're bringing Kai Zen. Kai, you there?
Hello, brother. How you doing?
I'm doing okay, man. How are you?
Right on, right on.
Mm-hmm.
So, how do you say this the right way? It's obvious that they've had challenge after challenge and setback after setback with server meshing. It has not gone to plan. This thing was supposed to be out a couple of years ago, and then last year, and then whatever. But to me, I get it if you're one of those people that you're like just hanging on Star Citizen and only Star Citizen, and you absolutely need that. If for some reason you're dumb enough to stream it for 4 to 6 hours a day, 6 days a week, and then put out a video on the 7th day, you might get a little salty. Me personally, I've been playing the hell out of Mech Warrior 5. I've been stomping around in battle mechs. I've been thinking about hopping into Elite to play around a little bit more. I've been playing Conan Exiles. I'm excited I'm going to play this Hogwarts thing here in a hot minute. I'm playing other stuff, and I look at it as we have two choices. There's going to only be one Star Citizen. So it'll happen, and then it'll be done. Now, it could be this thing that is a massive, impossible to do project where the technology doesn't exist and they have to bang their head against the wall, and there's going to be delay after delay and hardship after hardship until eventually they triumph. Because in the history of everything that's great, the entire history of it is a uninterrupted string of failures until they get it. So we can either put up with all that shit and just play other games and chill and bide our time until they make something great. Or I'm quite certain that Chris Roberts could have this game put out in time for this Christmas. If they just EA Active Blizzarded it up and put out the same reheated dog shit that every other company is putting out, where there's nothing new, there's nothing innovative, it's got a battle royale mode, it's got loot crates, we're gonna do this, So like, as a grown-up who's put couple $100 into this game, I have to think I can have you could have it quick, you could have it great, or you could have it like how do I say it, like you could have it groundbreaking. So groundbreaking is it does shit that nobody else has done. Great is it just does a great game, and fast is you get it fast. You can only have 2 out of those 3. What do you want? Me personally, I'd rather have groundbreaking and great and wait 2 to 3 to 4 years and then get a game that I so much want to do. Or, if you want to settle for pretty decent and nothing new, have it fast, we could do that. Okay. I'm willing to wait, and I get that it's frustrating, and I get that it makes some people whatever, but if they were just doing easy shit, this game wouldn't be what I hope it's going to be. Okay. That's how I feel.
All right. Appreciate that.
Later,
Kyle.
brother.
Thank you, man. As always, thank you. Last but not least, we're going to bring in a little bit of Madness, and then we're going to move on to our last point. Madness, you there?
Yeah, what's up, buddy?
How
you doing?
Man? Good.
Oh, good. I start watching your shows, like usually when I'm doing the dishes, and then like I said, I'm always just like starting to throw stuff in there, going, "Well, come on, man, you can't have all these white knights up in here. We got to get something a little bit more, got to get some bass on this." You know what I'm saying?
What you got?
Okay, so look, I've been watching this project for 7 years now.
Mm-hmm.
And look, you can see on that graph, unofficial or not, 2019 PES.
Mm-hmm.
What's the year now?
2021.
What are we at? What's the D? What's our year
2023.
now? 2023. Mm-hmm. That's already how many years late?
5 years late?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's 4 or 5 years late. And that's PES, which is forgive me if I'm wrong. The PES is not like a revolutionary technology, right? It's not like no one has ever done PES before. Or am I missing something?
No one has ever done PES like this.
In what way?
Okay.
Is it different?
Okay. Let's use a basic game that has persistence in it. I'll use, I don't know, what's a multiplayer game? Okay, I play 7 Days to Die, right?
Right.
When I play 7 Days to Die, I can go into a pharmacy. I can pick up an item, I can put it in my inventory, I can take it back to my home, I can set it in a crate, right? Can I take that item and give it to someone else, or can I put it down anywhere in the game? Does it produce wear, tear over time? Can I throw it? Or is it just something that I can just drop? There are dynamics of the scale of that particular game. Okay. I'm only in a town that's only 8 by 8 kilometers, not literally hundreds of millions of kilometers in size, where items will be tracked throughout that universe.
I think that's the point, though, Griff.
Okay, what's the point?
I think that's the point. I think that's the point, though. Is the point is that like all those games have had a creative table or a publisher or whoever it is have all come in and said, "We got to stop this." Do you know what I mean? We got to say this is the point where we look at it.
I disagree.
We can't keep going forever.
I disagree.
Expand.
Wait,
it becomes insane. You're never going to make it.
Madness, I disagree. I don't think that any of those developers had that scale. I think they designed it for a game that was 8 by 8 in size, that it was designed not to throw those items across. That's what they did.
But that's the limitation. But that's it. They built the box around them, and then they expanded and moved it around the boxes there. Have we even built a box?
Yes. But did you watch the video that I just showed with George Lucas?
Yeah. Okay. So George Lucas makes the point? I love George Lucas.
What was the point of the video? What was the point of the video? The point
of George is like, no one's ever made this before, and so we're going to make something completely new. We're going to make the technology as we go along, and we're going to get there. And he's got ILM. He's already made Star Wars prior to this. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. How long was the franchise? How long was the franchise, man?
How much money? How much money do you think he was throwing at him with the studio versus the original Star Wars?
Madness. First of all, there wasn't money thrown at him. Lucas has had to finance his own stuff, first of all. Secondly, how many years was that? How many years? No, how many years was it, Madness? How many years was it before we got to Phantom Menace? How many years did it take for him to get there?
Was it 15 years? 20 years?
20 years. Look at James Cameron. James Cameron took 10 years before he could even think about doing Avatar. So why is it? Why is there? If you understand that there's a relationship between creativity and technology, and we have other examples, real world examples that people that we look at as innovators do. Why is it that for this particular game there's difficulty with that? What's so different? What's so different? So, the budget is even smaller. What's so different?
Okay, so for me, the fundamentals is like when George first started building Star Wars, right? Mm-hmm. No one had done like some of the ILM stuff that he did. I have no problem with the idea of people coming up with new technology and pushing things forward. But for me, it's kind of like where is the board? Where is the mood board that you talk about? Like George has that script board was all there, and he's going through it, and he's saying, okay, we're going to get to this, or we're going to do that. There is a whiteboard there with all of those things. You tell me where the salvage whiteboard is that shows me every single one of those aspects that's written on the board that we can see. Is if we're open development, why can't I see all those gameplay loops? Why can't I see those whiteboards?
I'll answer your question. First question. Yeah. First failure of your point is open development doesn't mean that you see everything. That's the first
But it's the
mistake.
PU.
Wait, no, wait.
We're not talking about Squad
Wait, no,
42,
we're not talking about the PU. I'm answering your question. There are many people in this community who feel that when they said open development, that meant complete transparency of everything CIG was doing. That's the first mistake that most backers have. There is nothing that has ever said that to us. What they have said is, we will let you know the progress of the development and the things that we're working on. Now, whether you want to be able to yank the curtain down on the wizard and see everything from the underwear he's wearing on down is unrealistic. That has never been a guarantee to us as backers. Never.
To see the plan, the very simple logical plan of like how you're going to play your gameplay loops and how everything's going to be built in and how your ships and how your tier 2s and hardware and all the rest and how what is the overall how all these things fit into a puzzle.
Whatever game has ever showed you that? What you're asking a demand? You're asking for something.
Those games.
But no, I'm saying no. You know, wait, no, yes, you do. Wait. No, there are people who back plenty of games. People who do crowdfunding, who do Kickstarters all the time. And they don't get any of this stuff that we get. They get absolutely nothing other than a freaking cinematic that says this is what we want to do. So why is it all of a sudden there's this tremendous amount? We need to know every freaking squeaky oil that CIG is doing in order to, and even if we did, even if most people did get
I don't think that's squeaky freaking oil, dude. I don't think it's squeaky freaking oil, honestly, Griffin. I don't think it's squeaky oil to understand what, to see like a board and an actual plan and say, look, we guys have got a really clear plan of how we're structuring all these ships that come in, how the hardware, the armor, and this is our plan and how the gameplay loop. So salvage works from here and we'll filter through here to here to here to here.
My question is, why do you think you're entitled to that? Why do you think you're entitled to that is my question still.
Why do I think I'm entitled to that?
Yeah.
As far as I'm aware, and I'll have to go over it again, and I'm more than happy to come back again and talk about it. Okay. But as far as I'm aware, I'm pretty sure it was stated that open development, the Inside Star Citizen for a subscriber was given so that we watch videos on the inside of development. And I believe that that's the language that I've always been told for the years since I joined, was that they were going to tell us and inform us of everything, right down to the finances I spoke about last time I was here. And they
you all put a vote in, put it in chat. Y'all hear what he's saying. I'm not going to twist any of his words. Has CIG ever told us that open development said that we were going to see everything? That's all you got to put in. 1, if you think that we should. 2, if it's a no. I'm telling you, that's an assumption that people say. Feel free to go back. We just did a Kickstarter show a month ago.
How many years? Yeah.
Listen, I understand the desire. I'm not against your desire to want to know more and understand more. All I'm saying is that and if you look in the chat, you got people telling you, no, that is not the deal. The only people who get to see everything are investors. Investors get to find out everything. We are not investors. We are backers. We are donators. We are people who say, you know what? We like what we see. We hear what you're saying, and we want to throw some money at you so that you can follow up and do more of what you're trying to do. That's as far as our rights go. And anything else that they decide to show us that's it. There's no legal, because you know why? People have legally tried to go against CIG for this before, and they've lost every case. Every case has gone to courts that, there should be this, or the terms of service.
I don't know how many cases. I don't know how many cases. There was only one case that I'm aware of, and that person was a moron because they kept buying bloody spaceships. So let's be honest, he was a moron, and he went back and kept buying spaceships because there's a serious addiction problem to it.
But there were issues with terms of service. There were issues with terms of service that people have brought up before. Those didn't go anywhere. I said that before. Yeah. I mean,
the issues with terms of service, they changed it. But we're getting slightly in the weeds here. But look, I'd have to go back and look at that and see. We'd have to. I mean, you know, and I know there is a mountain of years of talk, and we're going to share this. And Chris has said this, and there's an interpretation of language across many different things over the last 7 years, from ATVs to Wingman Commander hangars to Inside Star Citizens to live shows. There is a plethora of stuff. Not to mention, then you've got content creators who put their interpretations on top of it. There is a massive amount of information there, and to kind of right now I can't do it because I don't have the information. I'm more than happy to go and research it, and I'm happy to be wrong. I'm very open about being wrong on these things. It's not a big issue. But in terms of, like, for me personally, very much for me as a personal perspective, I get frustrated when I see like the new spaceships or server meshing or whatever it is. I like that graph you're showing there. That's a really nice graph. Whoever did it unofficially, they've gone in and put it down. I want to see more of that for all of our our gameplay stuff. I want to see more of this for how systems are all going to interlink with each other. Because if server meshing is all about interlinking everything together, and Tony Z scribbles some whiteboards and all that shit going off crazy, I'm like, fine, but dude, I want to see. I'm a very visual person. I need to see it. So for me, I want to see more of that. We used to see a lot more of these type of things in the early 2016, 17s on the old Star Citizen Citizen Cons. You know, they showed a lot more of that stuff, and they don't do it as much now.
Let me tell you why. And I'll tell you why. And I agree with you 100% here. And I'll tell you why. In those days with Citizen Cons, there were people in the community who started to rail against it. By the time we got around 2016, 2017, and this is really after the sandworm thing happened, swing, right? They started going nuts. And what they were saying was, we're tired of CIG showing us vision stuff. Stop telling us technical stuff. We want you are. But I'm saying there are other people who pushed back against that and basically said, we want to see the stuff that's much more intangible, like what we're going to get within the next year. So as the tech got more solid and tools got more solid, CIG got away from doing the visionary, this is down the road. Like, for example, the thing with the worm was on freaking Lear 3. Lear isn't, we don't even have the Lear system. People didn't read on the bottom left where it said Lear 3. They just saw a freaking sandworm, thought about Dune, and said, okay, when are we going to get the freaking sandworm? That was never intended for us to have right away. And people have been squawking about the sandworm for 7 years because they don't know the stupid way the game is laid out, you know? So I'm just saying. But
that's like, whose fault is that? I mean, that's again, that's like, it's not a fault. It's not a fault. It didn't bother me because I saw it was on Lear 3. And as long as I knew we didn't have Lear 3, there were no sandworms. Read the freaking lore. To your point, over the years, not only is there the amount of stuff that CIG, that you said, content creators, all these people have produced stuff, CIG has also produced a preponderance of information that you'd have to be crazy to try to retain. There's so much information, even as you mentioned about the Kickstarter. That's the reason why we did the Kickstarter show at the beginning of this year. It had been 10 years. There was so much misinformation about the Kickstarter. I had to go back and look at it again because there was stuff that I had misconceptions about in relation to what CIG said, with the different, what was monies, the goals, and things changed from stuff, right? Kickstarter, and the things changed because they changed the terms of service yet again. So when they went from, you got the Kickstarter terms of service and rules, and then they go to the webpage and then they sell on from there. And there's a whole nother set of rules to that as well. So there's understanding what the Kickstarter said, the communication, then there's the next stage, and then there's the communication of, hey, when you subscribe, we're going to provide a weekly show where we will do an in-depth report on, all our spiel. Remember the old ATVs used to be massive, where they go to every studio and, Brian Chambers and everyone else would give us really big, long, very long, I mean, too much at times, but they'd give us very long breakdowns of all this information, that we see. I mean, I'm very specific. I really want to see now. I mean, we're 10 years in. I really want to see if server meshing is super important and how everything interlinks, everything goes together. I mean, come on, like armor, how does it all work? Like, we're getting new spaceships. The biggest one, we've got this brand new spaceship that's coming in. Everyone's losing their shit over it because they've stuck an EMP, another thing on top of it next to each other. And I'm going, and everyone's going, the OP braking systems, all the rest of it. I'm like, yeah, because no one fucking knows, sorry, excuse me, how everything interlinks. We don't know that shit. If people knew how it all works together, we'd have arguments about, is that a good system? Is that a good game? But I'd rather be having those arguments about a golf fucking swing than pie in the sky everything. You know what I mean? It's like, with 10 years, like somewhat, please, for the love of God, tell me there is a plan. Let me say this to you, Madness. Someone just put into the chat that they're loving our discussion. Okay, and that's good. And listen, guys, don't. Madness comes in all the time. We have great conversations, and I love the fact that he's trust me, guys, he's not like trying to come in and rat on anything. He's being honest, and I appreciate that. And every time he comes in, I always tell him, dude, I'm always happy that he comes on, because we do want to hear all sides on this show. Madness, I am going to move on though, because I got my other question to go on. I got to be off a little bit. But let's continue it. I hope my next question doesn't get you going too. But we're going to go ahead and move on. We're going to let you have the last comment on that, because you mentioned some good points and agreed. And thanks you again, Madness. By the way, he represents a lot of people that have asked to hear more. They do want the details. They want all that. And I'm not against it at all. But I also know that, man, there's a lot of people out there who say, we don't care about the details. We don't care about the tech. We don't care about this. All we want is to play the game. And it's a weird tightrope, for CIG to try to satisfy everybody. But I think he mentions for people who want to know that stuff, I can understand why he wants it. I really do. Okay. We're going to move on to this last question, this last point. I was going to show a video, but I'm not going to do it because time has gone by. But I think it was well spent in the conversations.
So let me put this down. Don't forget to check that link out. This person put in a lot of good work on that graph. It is unofficial, but what they did do, they put the links down in their Spectrum post of where they got the information. So they didn't pull those numbers out there, but they really did go back and pull CIG's information. The last thing I want to bring up is this thing called Disco Discusses. And I told you that was the theme for the show this week because we're really talking about development a lot. Boy, Madness got my voice all going crazy again here. He knows how to get me going. But I'm going to show this video, and I'm not going to play it. Originally, I was going to, so bear with me here. I'm going to mute the volume on this here.
I'm Jared, and
I know most of you have seen this video. If you have not seen it, I'm going to just give a quick synopsis of it. On last week's SCL, not this week, but last week, at the end of that particular episode, for about 20 minutes, Jared did a breakdown on the question of how patches are released to the community. And he spent time talking about the different levels or layers in the company when they start working on a patch, and the process of how they work together, how the different teams work together, and ultimately how it gets to a point where it goes to Evocati, to PTU, waves 1 and 2, and then of course going live. So I really want to get you guys' thoughts on this presentation. Now, Disco said,
"This is actually sorry to interrupt real quick, but there's an echo when you play the stream.
When I play the stream,
when you play a video, there's an echo."
Okay. Okay, well, you know what? I'm not going to play any audio for this one, so we'll be lucky this time, but thank you. When you guys said there was an echo, I didn't know what you were talking about, me or what, but okay. Thanks, FC.
Yeah. No problem.
It's a great moderator. Thank you, FC. So yeah, there won't be any audio for this one. I don't know why there's an echo. But as you guys can see, Disco's writing out stuff here. He's talking about these different levels of how they work and the teams work. And basically, there's just a lot of stuff that goes in-house, back and forth from teams at different levels, until ultimately things reach a point where they feel like they can be released. There are some things that remain at that lower level that they continue to work on, even when a patch comes out. But this was also brought about because, and I remember hearing several people say this, that during 2022, that there wasn't a lot of patch releases, and that because we got a 0.1 and a 0.2, that people look at those as little releases or fixes. And what Disco said was that, and he actually started listing what were some of the things that were included in 17.2 and 17 point whatever, that the patches were actually somewhat substantial, that there were many things that were included, derelicts and other things that were added into the game, even though they were in a point, like 17 point whatever. But that's because 318, the focus for that was really going to be dealing with PES. As you guys know, when we were going to get 318, they had told us that it would probably be at least 3 months of being in there, getting ready for that, which is what we've been in, because it's been December since we got it. And so they wanted to bring in these other things because they knew that these other things would still have impact later on. So that was the basic synopsis of it. If you haven't watched the one from last week, please do. Please make sure you watch it, because it's really worth the watch to get an understanding of how CIG puts out patches. So I got Fist to Face waiting. I'm going to bring him in. Fist, you there?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. So did you have any thoughts about this thing? Because I don't want to play the audio because Fast Cards told me that I've got echoing going on, but any thoughts?
From what I gathered from it, it's good to. I mean, obviously, it's cool to see from a game developer to see how the way all of these teams are working together. Mm-hmm. And like I said again, it is difficult because from working on things in the post-production, you're working with other teams as well. Now, as far as, the synergy between me and, my boss, he gives me what I need to do. He gives me instructions and I hand it back, and then he pushes it on to his team, mm-hmm. To the rest of the teams. So I get this right here and what's being said and what's being shown. Mm-hmm. Now, I guess as far as going any further, I don't know what the question would be as to the point of I I guess other than what I just said, I like to see this, which is cool. I'm glad that he's explaining it. You know, but I was just maybe I was just trying to see, was there another like a question maybe I missed? I'm sorry, but it was specific.
Well, no, I was just asking what your thoughts were. Did you get a chance to watch the video that Disco did, and if so, did you have any thoughts about it?
Okay. Yeah, I mean, no, that's pretty much really. I mean, because really, what he was just showing is pretty much what I kind of, see
Was it helpful?
in our work.
Was it helpful in the sense? I mean, do you think it was helpful to the community that, him kind of taking this impromptu kind of thing to explain the process of how patches come out?
I think that's a very good, definitely a good thing that he's done that, because a lot of times you do have to go back over certain things like this. Maybe this has been done. I don't know. Maybe you guys could tell me. Maybe this has been explained a few years ago to folks. Maybe not as extensive as this, or maybe some things like that. But maybe this was explained again back then. But you have a group of new people who are now coming into the game that may need to hear this, and that's one thing that you understand. That you, especially in a game like this, and then like you said, they're doing open development. You're going to have to repeat yourself.
Okay.
They're going to have to go back over content like this.
Okay.
So I'm fine with it. Yeah, this was cool.
Okay. All right, cool. All right. Thank you very much, buddy.
Oh, no problem. Thank you.
Alrighty. Let's bring Madness back. Madness is back. You there, Madness?
Yeah.
Hey, buddy. What you got?
This is what I'm talking about. Right there. This is what I'm this is what I'm talking about. Like, come on. Like, you gotta just whiteboard out on a marker. Get the bloody balance team out there. Get them out here. Let's hear it. Get a board together, bigger board. You need to get Tony Z and get Chris standing on the side and just, behind a plexiglass board so they can't come out and rub it out or add anything until the end. Get the balance guys in there, draw it up, show us how everything is going to work together, because that is honestly, that is so critical to this game right now. We're still talking, like, let's just assume it all comes through and it all works and all finishes. I mean, that is serious pie in the sky, but let's just go for it, okay? It all comes through, it's still got to all work together, right? It's all got to all mash and marry, and Tony Z's got to have his dynamic thing. This is great. 100% more of this, please. A simple, drawing, just how it's all going to work.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. I thought this was a good thing. Whether it was planned or not, don't care. But I think that there are a lot of assumptions. And again, you're the type of person like me who this type of minutia information means something. And there are so many people out there who honestly, like, they don't even watch SCL. They don't. They'll watch ISC because it's going to show the new ship or this, that, and the other. And as far as the progress of development, they don't really. Right. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that.
I'm jealous
they just
of
don't
them.
care. Right. But they just don't care about the progress of the development. They don't. They just, they just want to know what the next thing that's going to be handed to them is. Where to me, I thought this was good. I agree with you 100%. I wish there was more of this. And maybe this whole disco discusses thing, if there's enough out there that people say they liked it, then maybe he will do more. Or like you said, bring in other people. Because one thing to have Tony Z sit behind the counter and talk, but I agree. If he came out and did a presentation like this, oh my God, it would be a whole nother thing. I agree.
Honestly, get all of the balance guys on. Get all the, just show how it all
comes together.
Is gone into it all, kind of like how I really want to know how they plan to make all these ships, because every time they keep bringing a new one and they keep adding new things and everyone loses their shit over it. And I'm like, yeah, but then if we knew the plan and they said, yeah, this is coming now and this is replacing this, because these ones it answers everything very quickly, gets everything very quickly organized, and then everyone goes, okay, they calm down to a degree. There's always going to be controversy. You can't please everybody. You and I know that. We're all in here having a heated conversation earlier. You can't keep everyone happy. But this was good. More of this. Okay. Get them the markers out there. Whatever. Yeah, it's fine. It's cool. It's cool with me. More of that.
All right. Thanks, Madness. No, I like that. I like that. Not to be funny, but to show us the method behind the madness, right? I mean, to be able to know why we're going in the direction we are, or even when the ship turns. Somebody talked about this once before. Particularly, let's go back to that map we were looking at about, object container streaming, SOCs, PES, all that stuff, and iCache, and then where we are now with server meshing. And there were people who said, when when things didn't work, when they found that iCache was not going to, in theory, it was supposed to do such and such. As they started working on it, they realized it couldn't accommodate what they really needed. So they had to change it. They had to do something different. And there were people who said, hey, we're grown-ups. We would love to have heard, what made that decision come up, because we heard so much about iCache for so long. And then all of a sudden we hear about this next thing. What happened to iCache? So people wanted to know. They wanted to know, hey, it got thrown out. We don't have a problem that you threw it out. We would just love to know what brought about that point where it was not going to do what we thought it was going to be able to do. So I get it. Very cool stuff. All right, last but not least, Pops in Space is back. Pops, you there?
Yeah, yes, I am.
Yes, sir. What are your thoughts about this video?
Well, this probably ain't going to go in the direction you're thinking it's going to go into, but I turned this off.
Okay.
Now, it because for me, it didn't really give me anything that I didn't already know.
Okay.
Which is why, but I will do this out of respect. I will go back. I will check it out.
Okay.
But I do appreciate the audible that he did, because it gave Disco a chance to give people that don't know and don't understand. So that part I appreciated. Yeah. I just have the time myself.
Oh yeah, no, I get it. Yeah. It's a 20-minute piece, and again, I think that this was in response to and I'm not sure if you even know about it, because some people may not know about it. There was a lot of hubbub about why we were in 3.17 for so long, why there was no quote unquote major patches. We still got quarterlies, but there was no quote unquote major. And I think this was kind of speaking a little bit to that, as well as this is the first time we ever had them come out and tell us, hey, this next patch is coming out. We're going to be testing for a long time. So just letting you know now, this ain't going to be the typical testing time. Guaranteed 3 months on this sucker. So just be ready,
Yeah, so exactly.
This was in response to a lot of what came out of 3.17 going into 3.18. So you'll appreciate it, I think, when you watch it.
It was a warning. Yeah. It was because everybody's, we're off like you said, we're off the quarterly track, and they're letting us know this is going to, the reasons why we're off the quarterly track right now. Everybody, whatever direction you want to go with it. But I think you're right. That's what the audible was.
And Madness's point was right about this. There's some nuances here, particularly when you look at that chart there, where he talks about the different teams and why things get passed into our hands, and why there are things that remain. And he talks about that a lot, which is good. So for those of you who have not seen this video, I really want to encourage you guys to check it out. It was the SCL, not as in yesterday, but the week before. Check it out, and we'll put the link in for you. Fastcard already put it in there. Fastcard's on the job, okay?
All right.
Check it out. It's really, really good, okay?
Okay. So out of respect, I will go back.
Check it out. I'd love to hear what you think after. We'll talk later, okay? Thanks, buddy. All right. Okie dokie. Whew. We are done. I think I know why we had those echoes too, by the way. So I'm going to try to fix that later. But yeah, that was it. Thank you. You guys shared some really great stuff. And from all sides, there's really good opinions on everything that we talked about today. And thank you guys for putting up with my bad voice with this COVID. Hopefully I'm going to get better soon. I hope so. I thought it was going to be better by today, but it ain't happening. Anyway, let's talk about tomorrow. Tomorrow, our show on our main show, Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern time, is I Love This Ship. We're going to be, the panel that's going to be on tomorrow is going to be talking about their favorite ships and why they love them. And we're going to be talking about a little bit different stuff. We're going to be talking about exterior design, interior design, combat, handling, daily driver. And of course, we're going to want to hear and chat with you guys what's going to be your favorite ships in those categories too. So hopefully you guys will be able to join us tomorrow. Yo-Yo Meg's going to be here. Abdi's going to be here. Fastcard's going to be here. And they're going to be sharing why they love the ships that they have. Maybe they don't own them yet. Maybe there's some ships they don't have yet. I don't know. But we're going to be talking about that tomorrow. As you guys know, today is also Podcast Saturday, where we have partnered with our good friends at the Astro Pub over at the Captain's Table. You got Paul's show. He's probably, I don't know if he's on right now. I'm going to look and see if he's on right now. But we love to support Paul and what he does. You guys know Paul's been a great contributor to the Star Citizen community. He has his show at 6 p.m. called The Captain's Table, but he is on right now. We are going to send you guys over to him when we leave here. Also, when Paul's done at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, the OGs of Star Citizen streaming Relay, they will be on at 9 p.m. tonight. And we really want to encourage you to support both of these streamers. They both give great contributions to the Star Citizen community. And so hopefully you guys will be able to spend your Saturday afternoon and evening watching them. They're also great people. Hobo, stop. Paul is a scam. All right, so we are going to have you guys check them out today. Again, don't forget to visit us on tomorrow. Don't forget our Thursday show, Soul Talk, Fast Cart, 8 p.m. Eastern. It's 9 p.m. Eastern time. Sorry, Fast Cart. 9 p.m. Eastern time. Where you guys will get to hang out with us in our panel discussion. Our Saturday is our one-on-one with me. But on Thursday, that is our panel discussion, and you guys can sit in with Fast Cart and the gang for that. So we have punched in the Astro Pub, so we are going to be sending you guys over there to him. Don't forget, Sunday, March the, I hope I get the date right, 5th, is our 3rd year anniversary. It'll be 3 years for us streaming Star Citizen. It's a Star Citizen community. Hopefully you guys will reserve that time to join us for our anniversary show. We're going to be doing some great giveaways that day, and we're going to, as always, have a great time talking about the past year to come. Get to talk with as many of our people from the team who can be here that day. So hopefully you guys will be able to join us for our 3rd year anniversary show on March the 5th. We'll start advertising that pretty soon as well. Other than that, I think that's about it. As always, thank you guys for being here. Please stay safe, stay healthy, and as always, peace, love, and soul. We'll see you soon. Take care. Bye.